Can we have a serious discussion without anybody getting upset, without anybody getting up in arms? Welcoming intellectual discussion and comments on this video that is going to really address, and I think in finality, the issue of police violence against African Americans. Take me for what I am. Okay, I was raised in the suburbs. I went in and out of the ghetto and urban areas at will. I know a lot of people don't have that option. They don't have the ability to leave areas of high crime, gang activity, drug activity, where if you live there, if you're born there, you become part of the culture. There are some people who don't, or who find ways to make it out of that situation, but addressing the issue of police brutality in individual incidents against people of color or whatever cultural origin they might have. How many people do you think are killed violently every day in the United States? How many times are incidents due to police corruption or mistakes or personal prejudice or feeling taking place every day for whatever reason in whatever category? Does it not make sense to you that it is purposely built up, purposely hyped up when some of these things happen, just to sort of put our attention on that issue? Now, I think it's not a secret. It's not a conspiracy. It's nothing crazy to see that big moves are being made politically within the United States and the international community. Economically, diplomatically, militarily. Movements are being made. And people are profiting off the violence and destruction of ourselves, of each other, as a global community. And it's very interesting that when big deals are going down, all of a sudden cops are killing black people. All of a sudden we really need to focus on the discussion of who can marry each other, how we view homosexuality as a legal system, as a government, as an administration and analyst group that is supposed to break down the needs of a national population and provide for those needs. That's the job of the government. All of a sudden, the moral issues that get people upset based on their cultural or familial heritage and those values that were passed down to them by the opinions of those that came before them, whether that be a matter of religion, whether that be a matter of ideology, on personal life. All of a sudden, those things really come to the forefront. I don't know about you, that always just struck me as like, hey man, I mean, if you see word on gay marriage scrolling across the television on the news channel, and it's a hot button issue and everybody's getting up in arms about gay marriage, I'm not the only one that starts to look for what's going on outside of that. What big company is getting involved in this, or what the government has planned for another thing. Now, I am just now, after, since 2009, until very recently, I found myself a part of the military-industrial complex, and seeing how it works and who makes money based off what we do and what our end game is with other countries, both friendly and opposed. I don't want anybody to be afraid. I don't want people to be thinking about World War III and what war we're going to go into against what country. If we're not meant to derail and totally collapse and start fighting willy-nilly with everybody within the next year or two, now's the time. Now's the time to really address our social issues, take care of the people who are being left behind within our own borders. We made up borders. Does that not make sense to anybody? We drew these lines on maps. Once we knew what the world looked like, we started making finite lines that you can't cross without changing from one flag of authority to another. Maybe that's not a problem for you. Now, we just happen to have been raised in a modern version of what was supposed to be an experiment of massive melting pot proportions. That everybody could have the freedom to be who they wanted to be, do what they wanted to do, believe what they wanted to believe, respecting that same ability for others And I mean, look kind of where we ended up. I mean, there are laws in place that keep people from legally loving one another. Now, I mean, I don't know. If you think homosexuality is wrong for a theistic reason, there's nothing that can be done about that. You can feel bad. You can condemn the openness and the equality posed by the government for approving people to love one another. Gay love is not illegal and wasn't illegal in the United States. Legally claiming that you are in love with each other for life, which is what marriage is supposed to be, is what was illegal for two men or two women. I always thought it was interesting that people were getting away with saying, people in politics, people of authority and governance were getting away with saying, we were founded on Judeo-Christian principles. That's what our Constitution was formed off of. If it wasn't for the Ten Commandments and the Bible, America would have had no moral foundation to do what it does. That's how we get our authority. When I was in grade school, I learned the deism that was present in the founding fathers, and the most outspoken and intelligent of the founding fathers that took the initiative to outline this experiment. Acknowledging that there's a creator out there in the universe that made all this possible, and saying God has spoken to man and made clear exactly how he feels about how we should conduct our daily lives, that surveillance is obligatory, and that you'll be punished after death for everything you've done, and the word has to be spread and everybody has to abide by that same cultural, theistic, spiritual belief. They're two different things. And I think our country would be and have been much different had we actually adhered to the principles laid out for us in the foundation. If we had actually built our laws as the years, decades, centuries progressed of the history of the United States, honored the foundational concept, the law, that all people are created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Anybody that comes to the United States to free themselves from whatever bonds they are caught by, what would we really be like? I think we would still be the world police, because there would be a push for volunteer military association that capitalizes off our resources and our connection to other countries to go where there are warlords, to go where there are people enslaved, to go where there are people brutalized by dictators. Stop those dictators and do our best to expand the idea of America. Not to bomb someplace out and put an American flag there. Not to foster hatred or invite not just other countries, but whole cultures, whole ideologies to dislike us. Us. Not the presidency, not the government. The whole idea of America. Anybody that identifies themselves as a Western citizen are hated by some. I've been there. Nobody ever told me they hated me, because anytime I went overseas with the Navy, I basked in people's cultures, in the incredible differences between people and those strong core similarities between everybody in the world. Everybody's got problems. Everybody's trying to eat, drink, sleep, learn, live, make it from day to day by working as an individual and within a community to further not only themselves, but their families, but their community. You always want to strive for your community to improve. It's a matter of expanding that community. If we took away the imaginary lines that have separated us by countries, could we really overlook the differences between us and people who celebrate other religions, other nationalities, other millennia or longer, deeper heritages that you inherit from being part of a gene pool, a certain group that makes you look a certain way, that lets you inherit a certain language at birth. There's no way that everybody on Earth couldn't be educated to understand all languages, to understand all cultures, to know the roots of humanity and how they progressed into the present state, and moving forward into the future as one global civilization. We can address the idea of spreading outward into space. We can continue to advance technologically. We can advance socially until really planet Earth, we are citizens of Earth. You know, we can refer to the former nationalities that bound us to dislike or like certain people, to hold certain values. Now, I understand that these generations that are alive right now are in the midst of something powerful and in some cases harmful, in some cases absolutely beautiful. It's on us. It's on us to make this happen. It's on us right now. All of us. Not the new generation, not millennials, not the ones that come after us. Not Generation Y, not Generation X. The human beings alive on this planet that have the intelligence and the means to put aside what has plagued us and realize that this is a big enough playground for the people that feel like they need to be apart from everybody else to have their own space. And we are grown enough as a species to respect that space. If we need to divide, if we need to be separate, based on our fundamental thoughts and values, we can afford that separation. But it can't be separation born of hatred, forged in violence. It can't be a negative separation. If people that are religious and people who are secular need to be separate, religious people can have Australia all to themselves. But that's rude because it's barren and desolate in most places. Some are metropolized, beautiful, civilized, with all the amenities humans can ask for. So if all of the religious people that live in the world wanted to be in their own spot, we could proportion a spot for them. If, in fact, they wanted to be separate from everybody else, if we said this area has been colonized and made habitable for human life here on Earth, let's say Southern Africa, how about that? It's been modernized. If you are black and you want nothing to do with any other races, go on down to Southern Africa. You'll have everything you need. You can live, learn, love, and grow. But make sure, if you're hating other races and that's why you're going to Southern Africa, you have to realize that it wasn't just black people that hate Africans. I'm sorry, black people that hate everybody else that built that Southern African civilization for you. All of those cities, all of those public and civic works, they were built by the global community. So maybe you want to maintain the heritage of pure blackness or whatever, and you want to devote your whole life to that study. You have a place to do it. Nobody's going to come and mess with you. Do not come and mess with everybody else. If your religion, if your ethnicity, if your nationality demands that you hate other people, you need to realize that was put into you. You weren't rolling around as a baby growing into a toddler saying, "Fuck, I hate white people. Damn it, Muslims. Ugh, I can't stand them. Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Taoists, Hindus, atheists. Oh, them deists. Dang Chinese, Asians." You know, nobody had any of these prejudices until they picked them up from somewhere. Now, I have respect enough for the experiences of human beings to say, you know what, man? If you were visiting Korea as a 12 or 13-year-old and you're a Caucasian person and a bunch of Korean people ganged up on you and were saying how much they hate white people, excuse me, as we black out for the last piece of the puzzle. I don't feel like turning the car on and off again to get the light back, but if you got gang jumped by a bunch of Korean nationalists that hate white people, and you hate Koreans, Why don't you remember that you were in Korea for 5 days before that happened, and you interacted with hundreds, if not thousands of people that were all kind, that were all understanding, that were happy. You were there enjoying their country, that their country and their culture could be hospitable to you and leave you with a good impression. Because I'm sure if there were 100 Koreans in the market and 5 of them started beating you up, more likely than not, a bunch of Koreans would descend on them and kick the shit out of them and be like, that's all we need, is this person being mistreated by some of the people that cause trouble within our own society, and having that as their view. Now, these are insanely specific examples, but maybe you get what I'm saying. We are just people, and we are separated constantly by forces that wish us to feel separate from one another, that wish us to feel different from one another. Because if we realized our similarities, nobody could profit, nobody could gain from causing us to fight each other, from causing us to scramble in competition to outdo one another when we could all have everything we want and need. So keep this in mind, no matter what happens in the future. Keep it in mind. And as we move forward into tomorrow and the days that follow, that we are the same species. I don't know if we all came from the same place, but we're all in the same place now. We all deserve the same opportunities. We all deserve the same ability to pursue happiness, to live our lives, to live, not just survive.